My name's Ron, and I have a problem. I love cars. In particular, I love Lotus cars. I don't know how this happened, but I just love these cars. And ever since I was a little kid, in particular, I wanted to own a Lotus 7. I don't know exactly what came over me and why a Lotus 7 was the car, but nevertheless, it is. So, that said, let's talk about my Lotus. I always wanted one of these cars, the Lotus 7, and I had seen an article in Road and Track, and I don't know exactly when, but I was pretty young. I'm guessing I was 10 years old, maybe. So that probably would have been in 61, something like that. It was a road test of one of these cars, and I fell in love with it. There was something about it. It's just, it's approachable, but also the manner in which the road test was written, there was a certain amount of respect that this little toy car got from the magazine, and somehow that percolated down to me. My shirt says, "If you build it," sort of like Field of Dreams. So I kept looking around on and off for several years, and one day, a car buddy of mine, Jeff Robinson, he was a partner in the Lotus Parts store up in Goleta, California, JAE Parts. And I got an email from him saying, "Hey, there's a car for sale on Craigslist in LA." And he gave me some info. And so I made a phone call. And it belonged, this elderly lady owned the car. She answered the phone. And I asked her if I could come see the car. And she said, "Well, I've already promised it to somebody, but if you want to come look at it, it's here, and I'd be happy to show it to you." There I met Margaret. So I opened the garage door from the kitchen there, and it was, if you think my garage here in the background is a hoarder's dream, Margaret's garage was just piled high with boxes. And I said, "Where is it?" Meaning the car. She says, "Oh, it's over there on the far side. It's under some stuff. You'll see it when you get over there." And then she said, "By the way, that Shelby has a fiberglass hood, so be real careful when you're crawling across there." What? It turns out there was a 66 GT350 was the car next to the washing machines that was also piled high with boxes. So anyhow, I moved a bunch more boxes and made my way around, and I could just make out a little bit of some yellow car that looked to be sitting on a trailer in the other stall in the garage. So moved a few more things, and lo and behold, there was a Lotus 7 in there, an original Lotus 7. And was late, so I went and grabbed a motel room and spent the night. And the next morning, she called me on my cell phone early. So I went over there, and we had breakfast, and that she thought she would not break the deal she had made with the guy up north, but she thought, maybe if I call him and tell him a little bit more about the car, maybe he won't be quite so interested. And so then we made a deal, and I became the owner of the car. And I guess not owner. I became the caretaker. I headed back home. I had taken the day off work. I headed back home, broke the news to my wife that I bought another car. Uh, she was thrilled, although she was very appreciative that it was a car that I had lusted after for many years. So she warmed to the idea. And so I called my friend Raul, who had a pickup truck. I did not have a truck at the time, but I did have, the car was on a trailer, and so I asked Raul if he would go with me down to Margaret's, and we'd pick up the car and bring it home, clean out the garage, fix the door, and bring the car home. And he said, yeah, that'll be fun. So we got there early on Saturday morning. I'm not sure. We were there for sure by 8 a.m. We might have been there earlier than that. And we got busy, first thing, fixing the garage door. Once we had the garage door repaired, we were able to open it and see the task in front of us. And I forget, I know we made 3 trips to the dump. We might have made 4 trips to the dump, and we rolled the car out of the garage. And that was the first time the car had been out of the garage in 30 plus years. The morning that I had breakfast with Margaret, she proceeded to bring out a scrapbook and show me something about her and Paul's history with the car. She had photographs and memorabilia from Cow Club racing events back in the late 60s up through the early 70s when they raced the car. And they bought the car, they raced at Pomona and at Ontario Motor Speedway, maybe at Riverside as well, I think, and maybe a couple of other venues in Cow Club events. And they also did some autocross kind of activities. And Margaret drove the car. In pictures, in period pictures, you can see Margaret in the car with her blue metal flake crash helmet and these massive pillows, cushions, if you will, behind her, because Margaret's not a large person. Margaret probably she might be 5'2", a tiny lady, and so she had to have padding behind her, some kind of brace so that she could have some back support and still reach the pedals. So she enjoyed driving the car to its fullest. And so when they bought the car, it was a race car. It had been raced by a gentleman named Larry Alderson, and he also raced in Cow Club events. I find the Lotus Historic Registry in England via the internet, and I reach out to a gentleman there, the secretary, a guy by the name of John Watson. And so I provide him the serial number for the car and also the chassis number and some pictures. And with that information, he sends me a letter back and confirms that my car is a genuine Lotus 7, that it was sold new in December of 1961 as a kit out of the factory in Cheshunt. And it was sold to a person whose name in the records was listed as D.R. Driver, which I think is pretty cool if that's actually somebody's name, that somebody bought a Lotus 7 and their surname was Driver, because these cars are most definitely all about driving. But from Margaret, I learned that Paul and she had bought the car from a man named Larry Alderson, and he had been racing the car quite successfully in Cow Club events in Southern California. And Larry told me about his experience with the car. He did mostly autocross kind of activities. He did race the car at Riverside. He said that the gear ratio, the rear axle ratio, was such that it, at a long track like Riverside, it just was not a viable car in that configuration. But he was very successful with the car in smaller events and slalom activity. And he kept improving the car, and in that, what improving really means is getting more performance out of the engine and the suspension. And so he worked with a gentleman named Frank Moniz, and Frank built him an engine for the car, um, an improved engine. Originally, the car, we think, had a 997cc pre-crossflow 3-main bearing Ford Kent engine, and the engine that Larry commissioned was basically a 109E, which is 1340 cc's, still a Ford Kent engine, still 3-main bearings, but high compression, and a significant camshaft, and that was the engine that was in the car when I got it. And I can confirm that that engine was one hell of an engine. It really had a lot of power, and liked to pull. It would run up to 7,500 RPM without any issue. But it had very high compression, and on one of my sojourns up to Central California, up to Paso Robles, at a gas stop, I had forgotten, in my haste, I had forgotten to throw octane booster in it, and in the gas, and I had some pre-ignition spark knock, and I ended up losing a head gasket and a piston ring, and that prompted me to rebuild the engine and start to the restoration of the car.